pizza that delivered fear. In the bustling city of Crestwood, nestled among skyscrapers and busy streets, there was a pizza joint called Tony's Slice. Known for its cheesy pies and lightning-fast delivery, it had become a staple for late-night cravings. But one night, Tony's became the center of a tale that would haunt its patrons forever. Sam was a college student working part-time as a delivery driver for Tony's. He was used to the odd hours and the occasional strange customer. The job was simple: deliver the pizza, collect the cash, and move on to the next address. But on a cold, rainy Thursday night, things took a sinister turn. It was near closing time when the order came in. The address was unfamiliar, located on the outskirts of the city where the streets grew darker and the houses fewer. Sam hesitated. He'd heard stories about that area: abandoned factories, crumbling buildings, and a general sense of unease. But the customer had paid online, leaving a generous tip, and Tony himself insisted Sam take it. "Quick delivery, quick money," Tony said, slapping Sam on the back. "What's the worst that could happen?" The drive was uneventful at first. Rain pelted the windshield as Sam navigated through the city's neon-lit streets. But as he approached the outskirts, the streetlights grew sparse, and the GPS began to glitch. The address, 112 Crescent Lane, didn't seem to exist. Frustrated, Sam pulled over and checked the map manually. There it was, marked faintly at the end of a long, winding road. The house was a looming Victorian structure, its silhouette stark against the stormy sky. The windows were dark and the front yard was overgrown with weeds. Sam parked his car and grabbed the pizza, shivering as the wind cut through his jacket. He approached the door, noticing the brass knocker shaped like a screaming face. He hesitated before knocking. The sound echoed unnaturally, as if the house itself were amplifying it. Moments later, the door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit hallway. A woman stood in the doorway, her face partially hidden by shadows. She was pale, with sunken eyes and a thin smile that didn't reach her cheeks. "You're late," she said, her voice low and raspy. Sam forced a smile. "Sorry about that. The GPS had trouble finding your place." The woman stepped aside. "Come in. I'll get your payment." Sam hesitated. "Actually, I'm not supposed to. It's raining. You'll catch your death out there." Her smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed unnaturally sharp. Against his better judgment, Sam stepped inside. The air was heavy with a strange, metallic smell. The hallway was lined with antique furniture and faded portraits of unsmiling people. The door slammed shut behind him, making him jump. "Nice place," he said nervously, clutching the pizza box. The woman didn't respond. She disappeared into another room, leaving Sam alone. He glanced around, his unease growing. One of the portraits caught his eye. A young boy holding a pizza box, his expression eerily similar to the woman's smile. As Sam stared, he could have sworn the boy's eyes moved, following him. "Here we are," the woman said, returning with a wad of cash. She handed it to him, her icy fingers brushing against his hand. "Thank you for the delivery." Relieved, Sam turned to leave, but as he reached the door, he heard her speak again. "Wait, you forgot the second pizza." Sam froze. I only brought one. That's all the order said." Her smile vanished. "There's always a second pizza." The lights flickered, and the air grew colder. Sam's instincts screamed at him to run, but his feet felt rooted to the spot. The woman's shadow stretched unnaturally long, creeping toward him like a living thing. "I'll check the car," Sam stammered, backing away. As he opened the door, a gust of wind nearly knocked him over. He sprinted to his car, heart pounding. Throwing the pizza bag into the passenger seat, he started the engine and sped away. Glancing in the rearview mirror, the house's lights were off, but he could still see the woman standing in the doorway, her eyes gleaming in the dark. Sam didn't return to Tony's that night. He drove straight home, locking every door and window. But sleep didn't come easily. His dreams were filled with flickering images of the house, the woman, and the boy from the portrait. The next day, Sam decided to check the receipt from the delivery. His hands shook as he unfolded the crumpled paper. Beneath the customer's name, Lila Grace, was a note in shaky handwriting: "Do not deliver after dark." Sam's blood ran cold. He grabbed his phone and searched the address online. The first result was an article from 10 years ago. Family of 4 found dead in Crescent Lane home. Authorities say mother went missing. The accompanying photo showed the same Victorian house, now surrounded by police tape. A knock at the door startled him. He peeked through the peephole, his breath catching. A pizza box sat on his doorstep, steaming in the cold morning air. There was no sign of who had left it. Against his better judgment, Sam opened the door and picked up the box. Scrawled in red letters across the top were 3 chilling words: "The second pizza." As he lifted the lid, a scream tore from his throat. Inside was not a pizza, but a photograph of him, standing in the hallway of the Crescent Lane house. Behind him, the woman loomed, her grin wider than ever. Sam never delivered another pizza. Midnight Toppings, tucked away in the sleepy town of Ridgewood, was a pizza parlor called Moonlit Pies. It wasn't known for its speed or quality, but for its oddly specific motto: satisfaction delivered, no matter what. Its glowing neon crescent moon sign buzzed faintly every night, casting eerie shadows on the empty streets. Most thought nothing of it, but for locals, the restaurant was steeped in quiet unease. Late one winter evening, Greg, a part-time delivery driver, was assigned the last order of the night. The address simply read, Ravenwood Forest. Greg frowned as he double-checked the slip. "This can't be right," he muttered. "You'll be fine," said his boss, Alex, shrugging from behind the counter. "It's prepaid. Big tip. Just drop it off. No questions." Greg hesitated. The forest had a reputation. Whispers of people who ventured in but never came out filled the town's history. Despite his reservations, he grabbed the insulated pizza bag and headed out into the frigid night. The drive started normally. Streets became winding roads, houses turned to fields, and streetlights disappeared entirely. Greg switched on his high beams, illuminating the barren trees lining the road. The farther he drove, the more his unease grew. After 20 minutes, the GPS chimed, announcing he'd arrived. There was nothing but trees. Greg double-checked the receipt. Ravenwood Clearing, 1.2 miles north of Old Miller Road. He groaned. "Guess I'm hiking," he muttered. He grabbed the pizza and flashlight, cursing under his breath. The forest was eerily silent, the only sound being the crunch of his boots on frozen ground. Shadows danced as his light flickered, and the cold bit harder with each step. After walking what felt like an eternity, he reached a small clearing. In the center stood a wooden table, and on it lay a single, handwritten note. "Place the pizza here. Do not speak. Do not look behind you." Greg froze. The hair on his neck stood on end. A cold sweat broke out despite the freezing air. Every instinct screamed for him to leave, but the promise of a hefty tip and the fear of returning without completing the job kept him rooted. He placed the pizza on the table. As he turned to leave, he heard a faint whisper, "Stay." Greg froze, heart pounding. Against his better judgment, he glanced over his shoulder. The clearing was empty. Shaking his head, he picked up his pace. Heading back toward his car, the flashlight flickered again, and this time it died completely. The silence grew oppressive, as if the forest were holding its breath. Then came the sound. Footsteps, not his own. Slow, deliberate steps crunched the frozen leaves behind him. Greg didn't dare turn around. The footsteps grew closer, accompanied by a faint wheezing sound. "Don't look," he whispered to himself, gripping the flashlight like a weapon. His car was in sight, a beacon of safety in the oppressive dark. But as he reached for the door handle, he noticed something was wrong. The windows were fogged from the inside. Someone, or something, was sitting in the passenger seat. Greg's breath caught in his throat. The figure didn't move but sat unnaturally still, its head tilted at an impossible angle. The smell of burnt cheese and rancid meat filled the air, and Greg's stomach churned. He stumbled backward, dropping his keys. The figure in the car slowly turned its head toward him. Its face was obscured, but its eyes glowed faintly, like embers. A voice rasped from the car, "You forgot the toppings." Greg ran. He didn't care where, as long as it was away from the car and the clearing. His legs burned and his lungs screamed for air. The footsteps behind him returned, faster and heavier now, accompanied by guttural growls. The forest seemed to close in on him, the trees shifting unnaturally. He tripped, landing hard on the frozen ground. As he scrambled to his feet, he realized he was back in the clearing. The table was gone. In its place stood a tall, shadowy figure, its limbs unnaturally long, and its face a gaping void. In its hands was the pizza box, now open. Inside was a single slice with toppings that writhed as if alive. "Eat," the figure commanded, its voice a low rumble that shook the ground. Greg shook his head, backing away. The figure took a step forward, then another. Its shadow engulfed him, and the last thing Greg saw was the writhing slice being forced into his mouth. Days later, the townsfolk noticed Greg's car abandoned on the edge of Ravenwood Forest. Inside were two things: a half-eaten pizza and a note scrawled in shaky handwriting. "Never deliver to Ravenwood. They always want more." No one ever saw Greg again. Moonlit Pies closed its doors shortly after, but locals still hear whispers of strange orders placed late at night, and those brave enough to take them are never seen again.